Hello there people, Weston here. What you're about to see are Filia's full trials, followed by some arcade mode. The first trial is a breeze, there are very few moves, they are simple to execute, and the animations are long enough to give you ample time to cancel each of them into the next. The second trial is a tad more complicated. The difficulty was in making bounce and volume connect. Hellballs and elbows I do instinctively by now, so they weren't an issue. I've also spliced in salon treatment since you can pad the combos out any way you wish. Trial 3 was hell. That light kick after the L dash was brutal. So was that single hit bounce and volume cancelled to an elbow, often after crossing the target up. I've spent an obscene amount of time practicing this one.
Good job, you'll pay for this. It's super effective.
I've completed the fourth trial a long time before I've even attempted the third one. The tricky part was telling whether I was on the ground already. After the hellball, I needed to dash, but not L dash towards the target and snip snip. Technically, the combo asked for a single snip into medium punch, but I cancelled it into itself for the added confirmation.
You bastard. Impossible to gauge.
After completing the trials, I wanted to practice one final time before heading off to beat story mode. I've decided arcade mode on Nightmare would pose an adequate challenge. Of course I will have a single character against whatever the hell the game decides to throw against me. It can be a team of 3, as in this case, it can be a team of 2, or it can be another single powerful character that you will get 3 takes to beat. As Mr. Pretty Kitty would say, buttons! I've unnecessarily pressed something instead of blocking. Of course I Fenrir into the L into a blocking opponent! This happens so many times and it's so embarrassing, and yet I keep doing it. Because I'm just not good enough. And of course I know that such a thing as a double snap exists. That you can perform a takeout on 2 characters and then have one of them completely helpless that you can beat into a pulp. But I still am not comfortable performing it in practice. That was completely superfluous. I did not need so much damage on a single character that was about to die. Not in the slightest. I should probably switch to Valentine because she's almost dead, and now she's just regenerating health for free. But since it's too late anyway, might as well stay. Sometimes you get caught off guard and the AI treats you to a nice string of combos. Nice, long and painful string of combos. I don't know all these characters well enough to be able to tell which of their moves are unsafe and to what extent. But one thing I have figured out against Squiggly is that when she says 1 and 2 is precisely when you need to hit her, before she follows that up with an attack. You either counterattack then, or you fall back and block. By the way, you might have been able to observe that I was smart enough to figure out, but mostly not smart enough to pull off, a so-called mix-up. When they are blocking low, I should attack high. When they are blocking high, I should attack low. I know how to attack low. Attacking high with Filia, not so simple as far as I'm concerned.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Ah, Big Band. His hitbox is as enormous as his damage output. At this juncture, I'd like to briefly speak to the reason for this video's very existence. It may give you more insight into what you're watching. I've never been particularly good at fighting games, of course for most genres, since I've dabbled in many things without committing heavily into anything in particular. I know I can beat the story mode, even a Nightmare, despite all of this. I know this because I have done so already. However, the difficulty posed by the AI is insufficient to force respectable plays out of me. I wanted to get better and do each character justice. I wanted to play them properly instead of flailing about. This video was my attempt at getting as good at Filia as I could. I've embraced her mobility long ago, and used that to make up for my unnerving tendency to open up with unsafe, heavy moves.
I'm too old for this.
And now a word from our sponsors.
I think this is my favorite audio track in the entire game.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Just saying. Yeah, quite quickly I figure out. Yan 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 yan. No. She almost always fails that magnet. Because for whatever reason, you can break out of it. You try to position yourself properly. Ow! You try to position yourself properly and you kick her in the head. Disrupts her beam. Yan, yan, yan. No! However, I very quickly figure out that the biggest threat over here are the beams, which she can spam over and over. So the most basic thing I need to do is block all the beams. I learned it over time. Initially, I keep falling for that, despite knowing that that's what I should do. Eventually, I put that knowledge to good use. It's a very basic idea as far as fighting games are concerned. Block stuff, then let your opponent perform something unsafe, and then punish that unsafe thing. It probably won't work as well against actual opponents who know what they are doing, but against the AI it works surprisingly well. Of course, using my blockbuster against a blocking opponent, not the best of ideas. I should hit confirm. They should be in hit stun for me to do anything but chip damage. Finally something nice, I slide under the beam. Once again, I need to block the beams. Ow. Used that herbal, put her in hit stun, then used my blockbuster Gregor Samson. Even though some damage at the very end, to adapt to that. Of course, I break out of her magnet. And now even chip damage should be sufficient to finish this out, but I need to be very careful. There we go.
So close.
3 opponents again.
Beat 'em up, guys.
It's Parcel, Filia, and Peacock. That wasn't the price of ideas. I hit the bomb. It disrupts my attack because there's no armor on that. This was the perfect circumstance to use the double snap. But once again, I'm not well versed in performing double snaps in practice. I understand what you are supposed to do, but I can't pull it off quite yet. Of course, I use Gregor Samson into a blocking opponent. That happens disappointingly often. I need to have more discipline, more restraint. I know that I want to do something, but that's not the thing to do in those circumstances. I've just complained about that. Believe me, past me was disappointed with those moves as much as you are and as much as I am. That's the 3rd time in a row! No! No! Oh man. At this point I was a bit disappointed in myself, to put it mildly. A bit dejected, a bit upset. Look at the health bars on the enemies, look at the health bar on me. I know I can regen that red health if I perform an outtake, but that's unlikely to happen. I do take out Filia, that leaves me with 2 opponents to go. Still, my health is pitifully low, especially after that ult, or blockbuster, whatever you want to call it. 2 opponents, high on health, for me to defeat. At merely a sliver. However, I don't give up easily. I know that AI low on health likes to perform very nice, very long, and very painful combo strings. So I know that I have a single shot at this. If I let the AI do anything, I'll be done for. However, despite everything, I end up coming out on top. Very proud of that one. And here I face Valentine. Once again in a duel, 1-on-1. I apologize for the initial choppiness, but it shall go away momentarily. Now, as you might have noticed, I performed yet another blockbuster that did not hit, although this time it wasn't against a blocking opponent, it was up in the air, improperly aligned, so it hit nothing. I quickly realized that I need to keep doing what you are supposed to be doing very often in fighting games, that is blocking. See, that was a good example of blocking. She blocked my blockbuster. Despite the name, it does not bust blocks. That was the slowest and most disappointing attempt at a cross-up I have ever performed. Didn't even look like one, did it?
Ready for your shots?
By the way, that's not teabagging, I just can't decide whether I want to block low or high. And at this point I figured out I have to play it safe and block, and then punish on an unsafe attack. Unfortunately, if you block against Valentine and she spots that you're blatantly blocking, she tends to attempt a cross-up against you.
Don't even try. No way.
In the interest of fairness, I know that she's blocking and I'm performing those elbows regardless, because it still deals chip damage. That was a real moment of brilliance. I noticed that she was blocking low and decided to perform a throw. Because you can't block throws when you're blocking low. We just cross each other up constantly. And I keep using that Gregor Samson to blocking opponents constantly.
No way. This might pinch. No way.
Nice little cross-up. Immediately followed by a blockbuster into a block. Because why not?
No way.
Nicely blocked. No punish though. And the finisher.
That's a wrap.
Not clean, but I've seen worse, I guess.
The gorilla fate is yearning. Let's rock.
Another team of 3. This time Fukua, Misfortune, and Painwheel. I'm fairly passive here at the start, mostly using my mobility and trying to wrap my head around the sort of attacks Fukua can pull off, because I'm not all that familiar with her at the point of this recording. I look for openings, I look for opportunities, and I do find them. Of course, I still use my ults against blocking opponents because I learn very, very slowly. I wanted to say that I never learn, but I do. It just takes me a while. Once again, potential for a double snap. Can't perform the double snap because I'm not familiar enough with it. I mostly retaliated against failed grabs by Fukua. Now I only have 2 opponents left, Misfortune and Painwheel. Let's deal with Misfortune first. Or not! Remember, characters slowly regain the red HP when they are in the background, when they are not the point character. And outtakes do cost 1 level of dramatic tension, so it may not be worth it to put a character out of the action just to get back the opponent you have damaged, so they cannot be allowed to heal. There's another consideration to this. If you have a single character, performing an outtake heals your red health, up to full immediately. I've wasted my single point of dramatic tension that I have gained on using my ult against a blocking opponent, as I have done here again. I probably should have used it on an outtake. Not necessarily to take Painwheel out, so much as to heal myself back up.
Here, this kitty's got claws. Just give up.
I still don't understand what the benefit of detaching your head as Misfortune is. Probably prevents overhead attacks or something along those lines, but a bigger factor is the enormous vulnerability that comes with it. You can just attack the head and it depletes the health just as well as attacking the body. So it's more of a liability than an advantage, I would say. Either way, now it's just a matter of taking Painwheel out, which is simple enough.
It's in the can.
Once again, not the cleanest of matches, but I've ultimately managed. Again, I apologize for the initial lag.
Gentlemen, it's showtime.
It'll be fine soon. Once again, a team of 3. This time it's Squiggly, Peacock, and Fukua. I have a pretty damn good start here. Once again, it's nothing fancy, it's nothing mind-blowing. It's just a series of meaty, heavy attacks that all connect and deal damage, not allowing her to retaliate. After briefly facing Fukua, she tags in Squiggly. I've never played Squiggly myself, but I think I've gained a decent bit of experience in playing against her. I understand her moves, I understand her weaknesses, and at least as far as the AI is concerned, I know when to strike back, I know what vulnerabilities I can exploit, which ultimately does not prevent me from just using Gregor Samson on her while she's blocking. This one was a lot more premeditated and a lot more reasonable. I've heard her say 1 and 2, so I knew she was open for an attack. This was completely pointless though. The attack entirely went under her, and thus my dramatic attention has been wasted. However,
That's all, folks.
however, my opponent's so low on health it didn't even matter. That was a reasonably clean match in terms of me not losing much health. Not necessarily that clean in terms of pulling off
Everybody warmed up?
strings of combos that do not have breaks in them. But once again, do not expect that level of competence from me. Anyway, Robo Fortune and a mirror match against another Filia. I know that the key thing about Robo Fortune is to not let the beams hit, to block them, and then to punish, to counterattack. Nyan nyan no! Get kicked in the back of the head and cease using that magnetic draft. Time to take a bit of punishment, and as soon as I can, retaliate and deal all the damage I can. Then, the moment I notice that she started blocking, I back off, only to re-engage and finish things off with Gregor Samson onto an opponent that was not in hit stun. The AI could have blocked, and the entire attack would have only dealt chip damage, allowing for a very nice counterattack. However, the AI was merciful, absent-minded, and failed to block. Predictably enough, I should be able to win against AI Filia. If I don't, then that just means that the AI is programmed to play better than I can, which would be kinda embarrassing. But of course entirely possible, considering the reflexes on artificial intelligence. And the frame-perfect reactions that are possible, hypothetically, although they are fairly inhumane. Once again, using a blockbuster against an opponent that is blocking, and using the one you mostly should use as anti-air tech. Not necessarily the sort of thing you should ever do, but enough hairballs will down any opponent, even with chip damage alone. There's no nice way of putting this. I essentially hit a brick wall here, in my match against a buffed up Red Mary. What you see here are my desperate, failed, sped up attempts at beating the final boss of the arcade mode. I've tried a great many things, and none of them worked particularly well. I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the thing was about Mary. In story mode, playing against ordinary Mary, I have achieved victory after a lot of trying, but haven't necessarily gotten the memo on how she works. Now, after playing against this version of Mary, over and over for a long time, since this sped up recording is just a part of all of my attempts, the final part, in fact, I have figured certain things out. I did figure that, as all opponents in this particular game, she cannot initiate attacks if she is in hit stun. The hit stun isn't as blatant as with other characters, but it's still there. It lasts a reasonably short time, and her attacks do have so-called armor, which means that once she starts them, they will go through. But if I do put her in hit stun, she cannot initiate them because she's in hit stun and cannot initiate things. So as long as she doesn't start an attack, she will not start it and it will not go through once I start putting the hurt on her. Any break in my combos whatsoever means that she has the opportunity to start an attack, and the armor on her means that that attack will go through no matter what. If I keep attacking, I will get hurt by the attack that she has initiated. And since I don't really have armor on my attacks, that will disrupt them. And since it disrupts them and I am no longer attacking her, I am no longer putting her in hit stun. And since I'm no longer putting her in hit stun, she can get even more attacks through, ultimately spiraling into a terrible, terrible state of me getting savagely assaulted by skulls and all these charging enormous rams of skulls and other ghastly visages, ruining my day. The upshot of it is fairly simple. What I need to do is get to her as quickly as I can, hit her as hard as I can, as consistently as I can, and combo her to death, without allowing her to regain her composure, to regain control, and to subsequently send out armored attacks against me that will end my life. Well, that's easy for me to say, but pulling it off is a different matter entirely. I ultimately settle on pulling off a hellball after a hellball, backing her into a corner. This isn't necessarily the optimal strategy the moment she transforms into her second form, and quite frankly, the moment she transforms into her third and final form, you need to have a quick and painfully effective plan of taking her down. Otherwise, the amount of stuff, the magnitude of things she summons on the screen will kill you. And they will kill you in short order. In other words, the solution I have settled on is backing her into a corner and bashing her with damage in stage 1. Later on, switching things up a tiny bit as far as stage 2 is concerned, because that I am a lot more familiar with, and that I know how to counteract, how to block pretty much every attack, and how to exploit every opportunity that I can. After which, I need to be prepared for stage 3, during which I need to shave off all of her remaining health as quickly as humanly possible. This particular attempt is particularly disappointing because I get stuck. I try to reach her, but I pretty much cannot. Once I finally do, I'm too low on health to accomplish much of anything, so I lose. I try an even more aggressive attempt. I desperately try to reach her as quickly as possible and back her into that corner. Unfortunately, as previously mentioned, she keeps tossing things at you, unless you keep her in hit stun, which is difficult to accomplish. There we go, this is it, this is the time, this is the attempt. Watch closely. I start off by getting near her, immediately start hellballing her. I also mix in a few attacks here and there, not necessarily mix in. I do get caught, which I shouldn't have, I should have avoided that one, but I don't care. I just push the damage through. The skulls float below me, so they don't damage me. I keep piling the damage in, I keep dealing it until she transforms into phase 2, which I know what to do with. I block high that thing that appears from the L, because I know that air attacks need to be blocked high. She's very low on health, I actually have more health than she does. This is a nice, promising situation. I do get hit once, doesn't matter. I keep using those goddamn hellballs like there's no tomorrow! As soon as she transforms to phase 3, I know exactly what to do. I need to use all 3 levels of dramatic tension I have, perform a trick of a Zoa at an angle. Come on! It hits! Now I just need to shave off the tiny amount of health she has left! There we go! That seals it. That's it. That's how I beat Arcade Mode with Filia. Thank you for watching, and you will see me elsewhere.